All right. We watched it. God damn. No. Hold on. My best friend is talking about me, and it's always funny listening to the theories that they spin up. Something I never consider, but should, is that so many of those orbiters were actually people who respected him and held him in confidence. I'm guessing he has rather personal information on a ton of people. Like, not sexual shit, just personal, I'm wrestling with this demon type conversations that people wouldn't want public. So there's almost certainly a pervasive muting effect when people don't want their personal shit dragged out. So there are people that I very, very, very publicly fight with and hate that I know personal shit about that would be pretty damaging to them if I were to leak it. I never do the shit unless the other person wants to start leaking personal info or doing whatever crazy shit first. Like, there are people that the idea that I would just leak random shit because, oh, I hate this guy, whatever, this never happens. I'm never the first one to do this. I will say, though, it's very funny that Jistical and his whole fucking crowd exactly operate like this. Remember, the only time we found out the extent of the insane shit that he had with his abusive relationship with Cherry was when Kelly defected from their group. And then she started leaking a whole bunch of shit. And then when Justical and them started shitting on Kelly when she defected. Every single time somebody defects from their little weirdo obsessive cult, they all start obsessively attacking and shitting on and then leaking all the personal shit that apparently was always problematic, but they never brought it up. They always do shit like this. It's funny that, yeah, he projects this onto me. The simple answer, oh, good friend, Wicked Supreme. The simple answer is he just argues whatever he can to get people to like and trust him, no matter how stupid it is. Then why not attack my arguments if they're so stupid? You probably looked at Asmongold and went, I'm sure it's better to be rich and relevant with a fan base of idiots than it is to simply acknowledge and atone for your mistakes. By the way, his suggestion was that I needed to be removed from society for a long time and put in some kind of like sex offender jail or something. I don't remember the exact message, but his shit he was on some fucking wild shit. King.
Hello?
Give me a second before you start saying the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah, no problem.
And there's no real underlying principle or argument he's always staying consistent to other than maintaining his DGG following. But, like, what about, can't you point to huge things in the past where I've had no problem shedding tons of my following? Where the communist split or whatever with, I almost said Vance, with Vosh and Hassan, like, couldn't I have just been friendly with them the whole time? Or playing League and destroying my viewership, or Mugenics? Like, it doesn't even, like, there are so many huge examples you can point to where it like doesn't seem like this worked at all, or it just doesn't fit with the broader pattern, but they're trying so hard to force it because it's the only way their view of the world can make sense. Although who knows, maybe there's something more pathological to how he's somehow always a victim in every scenario where he smells like shit. But the comment about breaking Pixie's trust in the worst way imaginable makes me believe against that. Clearly, he understands. He still understood is the point. He clearly didn't believe in his heart that he was a victim of Pixie when he said that. Pixie wasn't extorting me and blackmailing me and telling the entire internet she was going to destroy my career and life. What? He tried to make it right in private when doing so meant he would lose the least. Like, what does that even mean? Anything in private is going to be better than anything in public. Like, this is just, like, always going to be true. So is trying to make any situation right in private, is that always bad? It's retarded. Fuck, I hate these messages are so retarded. Holy shit. But the moment it became public, he went on defense. Yeah, when another person attacks you and, like, outwardly states that they're going to try to destroy your life and destroy your career, and then when they privately try to extort you and blackmail you, yeah, you're going to be a lot more defensive at that point. No shit, what should I do? Like, oh, she's right. I'm going to give all my money to the Queen Pixie, even though her family is apparently fucking loaded. She doesn't need it anyway. It's the question, though. Did he admit as much fault as he did because he felt that way, or because he thought he could stop it going public? Yes, that's what I think. The latter. That explains, quote, hiring a detective, end quote, to find Solo and get justice for Pixie until it became public. Solo does not even seem to be a concern for him at all now. Like, this is like the picture that I drew earlier of, like, the two kids in the completely fucked up bedroom after the mom screams at them, and they're like, why is mom so mad? Like, if we ignore every single fact of the matter that exists and just, like, completely invent our own reality. Also, I didn't hire the detective to find Solo. I hired a private investigator to find Rose because I didn't know who the fuck that person was. But I think they have to change it to because they think I always knew who it was and we were, like, scheming the whole time or something. I don't know what fucking retarded shit he's on. Okay, is that it? These guys. Jesus. Okay. All right, what do you want?
I think your Breaking Bad take is retarded.
Okay.
So like, I don't know how over the entire show, like, Walt is literally just like getting like destroyed by his own pride over and over and over. That you think that like at the end, where it's just like perceived as like a good thing, that he, I guess, like did his whole like meth empire thing and destroyed the family of everyone he loves and like, well, I guess you died for it. I guess if that counts. But yeah, like all that stuff happening. I don't see how like any of the things he did was like a good thing for him. I feel like the whole thing, the ending was just like a bittersweet thing. I don't think it was more like a like, oh, Walt won. I think it's just, to me it seems like he like lost, and like what he did was a consolation prize, or at least everything that happened.
Okay. What would first, Darius? What do you want?
Hey,
Yo,
what's up?
what's happening?
Hey, what's up? So, Steven, do you want to debate Queritos in like an hour and a half, 2 hours? Or like not debate, just want to have a conversation with him. He recently has been trying to
Debate
kindle up
who?
with you.
Quertos?
Quiznos, dude, I don't remember
Oh,
the fucking
Carantos?
Muslim
No,
guy.
fuck no. I'm probably never talking to him again.
But okay, listen, he wants to just like maybe like
I don't
you can
care.
just hear
No,
him
he
out.
had his whole disavow
you don't-
arc. He thought I was a rapist. We can go study in fucking Malaysia or whatever the fuck he was doing. No, I'm probably never talking to
I
him again.
agree.
Yo, by the way, Chronicles
I'm
versus the
almost
world.
certainly never talking to him again. There's nothing. Yeah.
Chronicles versus the world in 1 hour, guys. Discord.gg/melted.
Okay, and then also, so you're coming to Dallas in a little bit. Do you want to like get food and hang out, or you got like ladies? What are you doing over here?
When am I going to
What's going on,
Dallas?
Montford? Penguin. What the fuck do you mean? Like,
Oh, I don't
Penguin,
know.
like,
Maybe. We'll see.
Mon-
Yeah, I'll message you on there. Sure.
You'll message. All right, well, I'm gonna message you when it gets closer to there, so we can kindle up. All right, I'll see you on a flippy.
Be careful, babe.
My dog.
Okay. Let's say that like give me the optimal outcome of Walt's life. Okay, first of all, hold on. Let me ask this. You said you don't see
okay.
wait, no, stop. You said you don't see anything good that he got from his whole drug empire arc?
The one thing he got was that he's able to give his son like a free ride to college, and I guess like take care of whatever bills that his wife might have. But at the end of the day, he lost his house. His entire family hates him.
Say that again. What do you mean by that? The only thing he got? Just talk in more words about that.
Because he's able to he got the money to the billionaire friends that are gonna set up a fund, a trust fund or something for his son.
Why was the money important?
Because he was gonna be financially ruined if because of the cancer and like the surprise pregnancy that his wife had.
Why does the financial ruin
And-
matter?
Because he needs money. I mean, I think you're trying to refer to like him losing the whole like billionaire company that he used to be a part of, that he sold his share out of, again out of pride, by the way, because he was embarrassed about his like former girlfriend's family. But I don't see how that like relates. I feel like that's his mistake. Like his whole life, I feel like is kind of like as a result of his pride. Like he could have exited out of like the meth thing pretty early too, with like $1 million payout, and then they gave him a second chance when he was with Jesse and Mike, and he could have exited with like a $5 million payment, but he decided to keep going because he was very prideful about it. He wanted something to his name, which I think most people would think is retarded. He could have just like left with the money and chilled out.
Okay.
Oh, same thing with the
I
book.
understand.
Actually, I just thought about this.
Sure,
The
okay.
book, like when he got discovered by Hank, the book he kept that because he felt prideful about, or he wanted to like show off that like this guy was like simping for him or whatever. Like he wanted that for his own ego.
Sure. Do you feel like in your life at all, do you ever want to be known for something or recognized for something, or Do you have any sense of like, I don't know, another word for like, I guess like ego or masculinity or anything like that that you feel or?
I mean, yes, in a way, but I feel like money can like buy anything. So I feel like it's kind of one and the same for me. So I don't know. Like I don't really care too much about like
If you had the
being known
opportunity
for something
to
or-
earn $1 million or be given $10 million and everybody knows that you either earn it or you're given it, which option would you choose?
That's a hard question. I'm leaning towards given just because that's more money.
Okay. I mean, I understand your
Like, I
take
feel
on.
like I can kind of like
understand.
make my own thing.
Sure.
I don't know. I feel like
I
I can make my
understand your
own
take on
life.
Breaking Bad, but I think okay, I get it. I understand it.
I just doesn't matter. I don't get it. Like it's not.
You
It's
don't
like
get
an ego
it.
thing. Who cares?
Yeah, I think there's maybe that's a larger thing than I realized or whatever. Or maybe because I grew up in a conservative household, maybe I just have a different, maybe a toxic view on that. I guess it's possible. But I understand I understand you. I get you. Okay, I got you.
I don't know. I feel like most people would consider the Breaking Bad ending as like a bittersweet type ending that he ruined his life for pride or whatever, and like, you know, like he admits it at the end. In the end, he says like, "Oh yeah, it was all for me. Like I messed up." And like when Hank was killed, I feel like at that moment was the kind of like the breaking point when he was like, "Oh no, what did I do? Like this is too much, right?"
I mean,
like-
yeah, you could read the conversation that way, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I won.
Okay.
All right, but yeah. Anyway, one more thing. Just make sure, guys. An hour from now, we're gonna have Chronos versus the World. Make sure you show up in the melting pot. You get to argue with Chronos on anything you want. All right. But yeah. Anyways, W Radiant,
Be careful, buddy.
DGL.
What is this? Wait, what the fuck?
But that dog back there, the one that's sleeping, she lives a better life than you. Okay?
He loves saying that. How many times? I feel like I've heard him say this like 5 different times and just clips.
I don't know if it's because you're like, oh, you're an ideological opponent of mine, and it's a much easier way to fucking say to falsely claim that you're a dog abuser.
Chat, as long as you're in the box, yeah, it's a luxury life, chat. I mean, he's not wrong. There's a way better life, but don't you fucking dare, yo, don't you fucking dare get out of that fucking box. Yo, if you step one foot off that fucking box, oh man.
Or if you,
You know, in a way, Kaya's kind of living in like an open air prison.
genuinely think that I am a dog abuser, I don't know.
68 months.
But let me
I
tell
am
you
such
something,
a
okay?
fucking loser.
I don't think I've ever seen an attack ad that comes off as an endorsement like this one. The LA County Federation of Labor has a new committee lined up to go after Spencer Pratt, and they're dropping an initial $221,000 on this video and an additional digital ad.
Republican Spencer Pratt is the last thing Los Angeles needs for mayor. Pratt opposes using taxpayer money to build brand new houses for our unhoused neighbors, saying it's time for the homeless to get help or get out. Pratt thinks LA needs thousands more police officers rather than more social workers, and Republican Spencer Pratt thinks public employee unions should have less power, not more. LA is on the right track and needs to stay the course. Vote no on Republican Spencer Pratt. Republicans.
Yeah, that's kind of, they phrased his sides way too generously there, but okay. Jesus. You know what? I don't give a fuck, actually. I will get triggered today. Okay, now I understand why people say the Destiny's media takes are bad. As someone who watched House probably 10 times, listening to Steven was pretty painful. Spoilers ahead. 1. House doesn't value his career or opportunity to be the coolest doctor in the world above anything else. He himself can say something akin to that, because in his mind, this is his greatest gift, and without it, he has nothing. But the series shows time and time again that he's willing to sacrifice that career to save lives or to help his friends. At some point, he goes to a fucking jail due to his reckless and selfish behavior, and in the end, he fakes his death just to be with Wilson in his last days. Wow, what a career guy. First of all, this is one of the most low IQ things I've ever said in my or I've ever seen in my entire life. Values his career? No, he values what the career represents. The fact that he's insanely intelligent, and the fact that he is, and the fact that he excels so much at his career, right? It's funny, he mentions going to the whole psychotherapy treatment stuff. What was the one thing they found at the end of the psychotherapy arc that he needed? It was to be a doctor and diagnose people. That was like the solution. It's like, oh shit, you got to go back to doing your job of diagnosing people, because it's literally the only fucking thing that matters in your entire fucking life. There was literally a neither it's the puzzle he loves. They say that sometimes, but they actually go back and forth on this. I actually think that the show runners are a little bit inconsistent, because sometimes they make it seem like House like genuinely cares, and then other times they make it seem like House is a cold bastard and he just wants to solve the puzzle. And I actually think they're a little inconsistent on that. But there is a story that he tells. Fuck. What is the episode I'm thinking of? Gee, what the fuck was that? Jesus.
38-year-old former can be
Possible.
I'm not going to be able to find the scene. There's a scene where the older guy here that they wake up, literally asks House, like, why did you want to be a doctor? And House is like, one time when me and my dad were stationed in Africa, I don't know, some bullshit. He's like, there was a guy who was an untouchable, and nobody in the village wanted to ever look at this guy, and he was a horrible person, and he was a janitor, and it was terrible, and blah, blah, blah. But then one day, somebody got really, really, really sick, and none of the doctors could figure it out, so they all went and they called this guy, and then he diagnosed him perfectly, immediately. And that's when I realized that no matter what he looked like in life or what was going on, as long as he had the right answer, that was the only thing that mattered. And it was like, Jesus. 2, drugs don't help him be a medical genius. They just remove the pain. At the start of season 3, he's pain-free and drug-free, and his intelligence is fine. What ultimately becomes the perceived issue is that pain made him a critical asshole, everybody lies, etc., and being a critical asshole helps him solve cases. He comes to that conclusion after he failed a case due to being too friendly with a patient. You can obviously disagree with that, but it goes to show that drugs have nothing to do with it. He's also drug-free for most of season 6, and he's still solving cases just fine. Then we get back to the status quo because we need to have more seasons, but that's a separate problem. You can argue that, and I mean, I think that's actually true. There's actually a better example this guy could have given if he actually did watch House 10 times. And I think the better example would have been when I don't know what the people, I think some of the shows are just inconsistent. There's a patient who House solves his like fucking long-term chronic paralysis with some steroid injection idea, and then Cuddy tries it, and then it saves the patient and he can walk again. And Wilson's like, dude, wouldn't it be a mind fuck if we just never told House about this? Wouldn't this be fucking epic? And I was like, why? I don't know why the fuck they did it. That was crazy. But the reality is for a long time, he says he needs his drugs to be a good doctor. It seems like it's kind of shown in the show sometimes that he doesn't need the drugs to be a good doctor, but like the drugs never seem to actually have that negative of an impact on him, except for when he has to go to the psychiatric ward, but then he does the drugs again later. It's just not, the messaging on it is just, it's shallow at best. If the drugs would have actually had a negative impact on his like intelligence or his ability to function intelligently, I think that would have been a much more damning condemnation of the drugs, not just like, ooh, sometimes these make you crazy. Also, in season 7, his medical skills take another hit due to his relationships with Cuddy, distracting him. The most ironic thing in the context of the discussion is he ultimately accepts that. But you know what made Cuddy break up with him? Him taking drugs. I'm trying to think if that was true or not. Was this also, I lose track of some of these later seasons. Was this in the season where House wanted to go to Cuddy's, like, it was some kind of party with her family or something, or Christmas dinner, and Cuddy gives him the wrong address and lies to him? Was he on drugs at that point? I feel like Wilson and Cuddy fuck House over a few times. They kind of they kind of fuck him over a little bit. No, he drove a car into her house. He took drugs during her kidney transplant. Damn, I don't remember that episode. That must have been in the later seasons. I don't watch those ones that much. I guess. Kidney transplant. I don't even remember that. Sleepy Joe Biden, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. It was a tumor, not a transplant. Oh, that would make more sense. Okay. If we assume that drugs help him solve cases, how is that glorifying? Yes, imagine that. Drugs give you an advantage, but he pays for it with addiction, reckless behavior to save that addiction, risks of liver failure, risks of losing his or so valuable job, actual hallucinations, painful withdrawal, almost dying several times, and above everything, by alienating his friends and living a mostly lonely life. Again, I just don't like when people like do this external projection of things onto the actual show. Like, did he have risks of liver failure? I don't know. It seems like he did a fuck ton of Vicodin for many, many years, and that never actually really came up in the show. Did it? I don't think it did. He was never going to lose his job. Everybody protected him. The hallucinations, I guess, were kind of bad, but they were also like kind of cool and romantic and like based and awesome. And he's like crazy, but like not really, because he was still super lucid and having like crazy, awesome hallucinations the whole time. I don't know. I don't think so. Painful withdrawal. Wow. Almost dying several times. Oh boy. He brings up the liver failure risk a few times. Yeah, but it's not actually a thing. It doesn't actually happen. I don't think it manifests in any real way. Holy shit. Wait, who is Callum? Do we know this person? Is it the consensus that post-Cuddy, House is dog shit? I feel like the last few seasons are a little bit wacky. On May 7th, the Storer team was made aware that Callum Powell had pleaded guilty to offenses related to making and possessing and the possession of indecent images of children. Making? What does that mean? Like, was this like AI child porn? Which wouldn't be good. That'd be bad. But that would be significantly. In the UK, making is like downloading. Oh. Store is the biggest YouTube parkour group. God damn. Well.
About the
My king.
in part because
You've gotten a lot.
Oh, God.
Lot of pushback. You've gotten a lot of pushback on your comments about Mondani. Many claiming you haven't brought in.
Are you doing Collins today? Fuck no! I don't want to argue about your externalizing shit onto media and like, oh, but Destiny, isn't it really bad that you can suffer a liver failure? I would rather kill myself than have these debates. Listen, we can disagree to disagree. That's fine, okay? I'm okay agreeing to disagree, all right? We're good.
You've gotten a lot of pushback on your comments about Mondani. Many claiming you haven't brought any receipts for your Islamist claims. Can you clarify that for us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mamdani, in my view, is really just a more polished and more self-censoring version.
Do you think Breaking Bad would have been better if it ended with the penultimate episode, the one where it ends with him crying and begging his son to take money and he calls the cops on himself? That way he dies a pathetic old man and actually pays for his crimes. Kind of, yeah. That would have been a morally better. Yeah, I think so. In the bar and the police just show up and arrest him and then he dies in jail or something, sure.
Of Hassan Piker, right? It's the same problem, right? You've got somebody who thinks that there's a there's been a genocide in Gaza. In fact, Mamdani claimed that there was a genocide in Gaza on October 13th of 2023. 6 days after the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. He's talking about Israel being culpable for genocide in Gaza. Okay, it's a blood libel now. It was especially a blood libel.
This is retarded, but it's a dumb take. I agree, but is it blood libel?
Libel then, right, and gives you X-ray vision into his moral priorities, right? I don't think he's an Islamist. I don't think I've ever said he's an Islamist. I think he's at worst an apologist for Islamists. I mean, he might be an Islamist. I don't know, but I'm not claiming to know he's an Islamist. I know he's an apologist for Islamists, and I think he's more than a useful idiot, right? He knows he's too deep in the weeds of Islamist activism not to know what the Muslim Brotherhood has been up to for the last century, right? He knows what the phrase "globalize the Intifada" really means, not what it can seem to mean.
Don't tell him to watch Better Call Saul. He will rage bait argue it's a bad show because Saul chooses to not get away with it. I just can't, dude. I don't want to do anything. I think I'll give you a hint to trigger the fuck out of me. If people were like, I disagree with Destiny on this take or whatever, and then they give their own take, then fine, whatever. But it's when you say I have a dog shit take, and then you give like the most artistically illiterate take in the world. That's the thing that drives me the craziest. Like, I'm going to be honest. I've never seen a single episode of Better Call Saul, but I've seen like a ton of clips, okay? I've seen the clips. I'm going to go ahead and guess just from what I've seen, and maybe I'm wrong, okay? People listening to the show can correct me if I'm wrong. But when you say, he would say that Better Call Saul is bad because he chooses not to get away with it in the end, him choosing not to get away with it in the end is the moral development of the character, right? He has the ability. This is why I said this was the principal failing of Breaking Bad. In Breaking Bad, the alternative life for Walt was horrible. That's why I said maybe if you would have said his cancer came back because he continued working on drugs, if you could allude to that, then maybe sure. But the alternative life for Walt was you are in bed dying of cancer like a fucking loser and everybody's giving you money and watching you die. It seemed like, from what I've seen of Better Call Saul, the alternative life for Saul was he got the most insane fucking deal ever from the prosecution in the history of all of crazy shit because of the people he told him or whatever, that he had the ability to walk away almost completely scot-free, aside from a few friends that have died or whatever, and he would have been totally fucking fine, but he made the choice at the end to say, no, I'm going to own it. And then he owned it. That was the development of the character. It was like, oh, he's accepting more responsibility for the crimes that he's been involved in and everything else. To try to say that that's the same as Breaking Bad, like, you have to be missing so much of everything. I can't even imagine how you can be so fucking retarded to have that take, okay? In a video game.
What has been up to for the last century, right? He knows what the phrase "globalize the Intifada" really means, not what it can seem to mean when it's on the lips of confused freshmen on the campus of Columbia University. He knows it's a call for suicidal terrorism against Jews worldwide. That's what "globalize the Intifada" means, right? And he knows what the second Intifada was, right? He knows that the suicide bombings only stopped in Israel when Israel put up a wall, and I'm sure he objects to that wall and objects to the checkpoints that Palestinians have to go through to pass through that wall. And he'll call that apartheid, right? But the truth is there was, an endless number of suicide bombings until that wall was built, right? So
endless.
He knows what
Really?
the culture is over, in the West Bank and Gaza. He knows that Hamas is still popular.
Do you think that what Sam is saying is kind of true? I mean, Sam presents kind of the pro-Zio argument decently well. And I do think I hate all of this fucking cringe fucking the worshiping of the Palestinians like they're the best and most holy people ever and they've done nothing wrong. I think all that is cringe. I think that's true. But I just feel like just Sam Harris just totally overstates the issues with Mamdani. Like, again, he's the mayor. Even as somebody who hates the slopulous positions on all this Israel-Palestine shit, I feel like Mamdani's positions have been fairly reasonable the entire time. He even backtracked on the whole globalized intifada claim, which I honestly, if you would have told me to bet money and make a prediction, I was like, he's not going to change his mind on that shit. But he did. I think Mamdani's position, if he wants to be a person in politics that exists as far left as he does, to survive, in that environment, he probably needs to have made the statements.
In both places. He knows that Hamas would win an election today if it ran in both places. He knows that Hamas is a genocidal organization, a really genocidal organization. He knows all that, and yet when asked to disavow and condemn the use of the phrase globalized intifada, the best he can muster after months of arm twisting, and where it becomes a real campaign, obstacle, all he can say is, it's not my language, right? That is it's worse than a dog whistle. I mean, that's analogous in my view. I think I wrote this over in Community when we just started.
Have you figured out why Sam is so crazy on Muslims? I don't know. I think wasn't it like around the whole 9/11 time? He got like really, really, really fixated on a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
It's analogous. I mean, everyone can remember when Donald Trump, when asked about the Proud Boys, said, stand back, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by, right? And so what was wrong with that? Right? What was wrong with that is when given an opportunity to disavow a white supremacist goon squad on our political landscape, all he could think to say was stand back and stand by. And one got the sense that he wasn't just confused, he wasn't just rambling. He was choosing his words. He was doing a kind of high wire act.
Like, I agree with the analysis on Trump here, but the issue is that Mamdani is just the mayor of New York City. This is why I just don't care that much about this. And I think that he did moderate his language a bit, being sensitive as being the mayor of New York City, which, I don't know, I guess I was happy with it, but I guess I'm not Jewish, so who knows. But to hold Mamdani to the same standard about the language that he uses and how Hamas might interpret that language compared to white nationalists in the United States that had just held a fucking march. Like, if Mamdani came out and defended the concept of like globalize the intifada after like an Islamist terrorist attack in New York City, I'd be like, okay, this motherfucker's got to go. That's crazy. That's fucking wild. But like, we're worlds apart here, I think.
In front of what he considers to be his base, which has to include white supremacists and neo-Nazis and racists and moral lunatics, he thinks they all need to be in the tent with him, right? So when asked about David Duke's support, he says, David Duke, I don't even know who David Duke is. And he knows who David Duke is, right? So rather than given a chance to clearly disavow white supremacy in America.
Oh, Mamdani also took a lot of heat recently on Twitter because he came out and he like avowedly condemned anti-Semitic attacks and like openly and like very clearly condemned anti-Semitic attacks in New York City, I think. And lefties hate that. They hated that one. They got so mad at that. They love their anti-Semitism on the left now. Yikes. Crazy that like 3 or 4 years ago we were talking about like, is the far left ever anti-Semitic? And then the whole stuff with Corbyn comes up and be like, well, were they really, or were people exaggerating it, or blah blah blah? And now we've got fucking Hassan and everything else. God damn, dude, wild times.
He declines every time you give it to him. Right now, it's, with one exception, with the good people on both sides case, which was endlessly spun against him, and it was in fact.
Sam Harris buys into this whole, dude, I can't believe the center left are just so cucked that they got mind fucked into thinking like, oh, actually that we did fake news there. Trump was just talking about the good people at the Nazi rally.
Was endlessly spun against him, and it was in fact a malicious edit of a press conference wherein.
Oh! It's all good. I don't give a fuck.
He actually did say, I reject the white supremacists in Charlottesville, very clearly. But Mamdani is playing the same game, and I think it's even more sinister than what Trump was up to there, because Mamdani could clearly disavow the phrase globalized intifada and make contact with what's wrong with it, but he doesn't want to. And and to be so it's a little bit analogous to
Sam is centrist slop. No, he's not. He has his own mind at least. He's brain broken a little bit, but at least he's brain broken in his own special ways. He's not like a super centrist fucking loser. Which I'll always appreciate about him at least.
It would be analogous to in the aftermath of Charlottesville, if Trump had said what everyone said he said at that press conference, right? If all he said was there were good people on both sides, right? And I'm not going to, my business isn't to police, like Mamdani's saying, my business isn't to police language, right? So my business isn't to police, demonstrations and there's good people on both sides. If Trump had left it at that, which many Democrats think he did, he didn't. But if he had, okay, that's the kind of sinister bullshit that I'm reacting to in Mamdani.
I just want to break up again and just talk about what I think.
Just again for a reminder, because literally the left, I guess they just gave this up because they just assumed that they all lied or something. The issue is that when Donald Trump was asked about the Charlottesville march, right, whatever, he opened with, I heard there were good people on both sides of that. The problem is that march, that was an explicitly advertised neo-Nazi march. I'm not even exaggerating. It was just a neo-Nazi march. It was organized by neo-Nazis. People showed up there with tiki torches. It was a neo-Nazi march. That's it. And the idea that there were good people on both sides, but I disavow the Nazis or the violence, you're just giving cover for them. This would be the equivalent to me saying on October 7th, there were, I disavow terrorist attacks, but there were valid concerns on both sides of the October 7th event. If I were to say that in front of Sam Harris, his brain would explode. He'd be like, what do you mean they're good? What do you mean they're good? It was a terrorist attack. It was all horrible. What do you mean? And it's like, well, come on, Sam. It was every single person that came over the fence. Are you saying every single person killed a Jew or raped a Jew? Every single one. Some normal Palestinians came over, some Palestinian Islamic Jihad, some Hamas, but not all of them, right? You'd be like, it doesn't matter. That's besides the point. But I said I disavow the bad stuff that happened on both sides. There were good people on both sides of that, right? There were some. That's not the point. That's not the point. It was a terrorist attack, right? The Charlottesville march was a neo-Nazi rally march. That's what it was. Full stop. That's it. And to come out after somebody gets killed and to say, there were good people on both sides of that, that's crazy. That's crazy. And everybody at the time understood that to mean that Trump was basically giving, cover to the neo-Nazis. That's what it was like, There were crazy Antifa thugs there that were beating people up and, I disavow the Nazis, but, Antifa, that's exactly what the point of that was. And everybody understood that at the time, but now we've all mind-fucked ourselves into thinking that that's not what was going on, and fuck me, dude.
It was the best piece of television this week. The CNBC.
One question, did that answer?
Yes. That march was such a Nazi fuck march that I think it came from Gavin McInnes himself. Gavin said, listen, to the Proud Boys, if you want to go to that march, fine, but don't fucking wear any Proud Boys merch there. Don't wear your Proud Boys shit there. I don't want to see any, was it yellow shirts or whatever? I don't want to see you guys in your uniforms there, because he knew it was a neo-Nazi march.
I think.
But if he had, okay, that's the kind of sinister bullshit that I'm reacting to in Mamdani.
I just want to break up again and just talk about what I think was the best piece of television this week.
Sam's entire geopolitical worldview is warped by his paranoia regarding jihadism. He never addresses why we don't reflexively associate global jihadism with Indonesia, despite it having the largest Muslim population on the planet, or that non-Muslim states like Russia and North Korea utilize asymmetrical. Sure, yeah. And I think he should just fucking move to Paris or London or some shit and go fight it over there, because at least there it's a little bit more of a salient problem. But bro, in the fucking United States of America, I get so irritated. All these people, Sam Harris included, that were saying that fucking Mamdani is a fucking Islamist jihad. Give me a fucking break. Holy shit, we're trying to manufacture some outrage so pathetically here. Can we talk about real shit, please? And listen, dude, I'm an atheist and I fucking hate Islamists and I hate any radical jihadist bullshit. Obviously, whatever. I've even complained. I don't know if in London or in Europe broadly, if I would make the same comments I do about Muslims. I don't know. It seems like some of the shit over there could be a little bit sketchy sometimes. But in the United States of America, we're going to pretend like this is some huge, massive problem when our country is being fucking eviscerated by evangelical Christians? Because that is the group that is destroying my country right now, from top to bottom, at every fucking level, are evangelical Christians. White evangelical Christians. What the fuck are we talking about? The mayor of fucking New York City. Please.
I just want to break up again and just talk about what I think was the best piece of television this week. The CNBC.
One question, did that answer the concerns of the audience on the Mamdani front? Are we getting push back to what I just said,
fellas?
because
Do they live stream these convos? Is that?
I mean, Mamdani is not. Mamdani is the mayor of New York. He's not my primary concern, nor is Hassan Piker. What my primary concern is the fact that we have a New York Times and a Democratic Party who think these two guys are the future of Democratic politics, and that is suicide. Right? That in 2028, that is going to be suicide.
So you're getting pushback saying
Punks and Pyros, thank you for tier 5 subbing. And Coastal Roots, thank you for the tier 1 sub.
Right. That in 2028, that is going to be suicide.
So you're getting pushback saying, the issue with you saying a none too closeted Islamist. So apparently you've said that in the past.
Right.
So
I mean, this is a semantic argument. I don't know how much of an Islamist is. So let me just define what Islamist means or should mean, right? And it's not the same thing as jihadist, right? I mean, there are gradations here which are a little hard to parse, but generally speaking, when we use the term Islamist, we're talking about someone who is trying to spread political Islam in a
Maybe he does. Does Mamdani talk about this ever? Has he? Where he wants like fucking Sharia law, or I've never seen, and I'm so sensitive to this shit. Islamism is what he's saying. It's the idea that you basically need to incorporate more Islamic doctrine into your political system. That's what, when somebody says you're an Islamist, that's what they're referring to. Has he ever? I feel like I've never heard him give a speech like this before. I know he said some retarded shit like 5 years ago when he was on the city council or whatever bullshit, which maybe he is more radical, privately or whatever, but I've never heard him say this in the capacity of running for mayor or as mayor.
Theocratic sense, right? So like they're in favor of Sharia law, like they might be very patient, they might be willing to wait a long time, but eventually they want to get to a place where it's Sharia law all day long, all the time for everyone, right? and so
King.
The distinction between Islamists and jihadists is not so much the end state of the world they hope to see realized, but in how they're willing to get there. So the Islamists, for the most part, are not in favor of blowing yourself up on a bus. They want to work within institutions. They want to practice entryism. They want to subvert, political discourse and democratic politics in their direction, and they're very patient. And this is very much the Muslim Brotherhood's. It's been the Muslim Brotherhood's approach in the West. I mean, it has seeded the West with charities and political organizations. And
if this is true, I've just never heard much of it before. Is this true? Is in the West, is the Muslim Brotherhood more influential than like Qatari investment and infiltration in our education, or Chinese or Russian infiltration in our media? Is it really? What are they? What are all the Muslim Brotherhood established things that are being supported in the United States right now? I feel like not to be mean to anybody, but I feel like Mamdani's the first kind of guy that would get fucking murdered by a radical Islamist jihadist. I don't know, bro.
And activist groups and misinformation and very facile liars, and it's been a very long-standing project, and it is truly sinister, right? And Mamdani knows all this. No way he's in the dark. He knows exactly he knows more than I do about the Muslim Brotherhood and about the Council of American Islamic Relations ties to it, etc.
The Council of Islam. What is this thing called?
The Council of American Islamic Relations ties.
Is that like it's like AIPAC and then the Council of Islamic American Relations? Maybe I don't know, bro. I don't know. Maybe I mean, I'm honestly I haven't studied it. Maybe they're more influential than I think, but I don't know.
As to it, etc. So I don't know how in favor of all of that he is. I just know that the way he talks about Israel and the way he plays hide the ball with the role that religious fanaticism is playing in the conflict, and the fact that his first priority as mayor is to dumb down the definition of anti-Semitism because it was too capacious. It's all upside down morally and politically. And yes, he's if you want to, I can say with great conviction that he's an apologist for Islamists, right? And he knows much more than he's letting on. And there's something very
like anymore. Like I kind of sort of agree with that, but like only in the sense that like the left is right now, which I think is a huge problem. But I don't know. I've never gotten the feeling that Mamdani is like uniquely an Islamist apologist. More just that, like the far left right now is just in a very fucking cringy way obsessed with all this shit.
Minister happening there right now is I don't know how deep his religious convictions run, but I mean all of this is knit together. The Muslim Brotherhood is an Islamist organization. Hamas is a spawn of the Muslim Brotherhood, and Hamas is a jihadist organization.
Well, I know this is New York City. I mean, you know, it's still one of the most important cities in the world, and he's a huge figure. Would you be open to sitting down and talking with him, having this conversation?
Sure. I don't think it would go anywhere. I think it would be a disaster. But yeah,
Mamdani should do it. He could do it. I believe in him.
Why
do you think it'd be a
consider this your
disaster?
invitation to come on the podcast?
Yeah,
because
but
I
why
think
would
he
it be-
would. Because I don't think he will. Well, it's never going to happen, right? So that's the first thing. But by all means, invite him on the podcast, and I will talk to him about all of this and tell him exactly what I think about what he's been up to. Yes, that'll be a great conversation. It'll be a disaster because it'd be like talking to anyone else who plays this game, whether like Mehdi Hassan is another person who wherein the conversation is going to get derailed every single sentence, right? Because this person is going to lie about the doctrine, it's going to lie about the history, it's going to be whataboutism as far as the eye can see, and false moral equivalences. I mean, there are people with whom I can have this polite disagreement, and it still runs off the rails. I mean, the last time this happened on the podcast, I guess it was Rory Stewart, I guess was the last one. Someone who pretended to be confused about jihadism and Islamism. He's still, I think, pretending to be confused. I don't see that there's just 0% chance of that we're going to converge in our understanding of what's really happening in the world. But
there's a way. This is like listening to Asmongold talk about why he won't talk to Destiny. Well, no, at least Harris is willing to have the conversation. Mamdani is the same person as Bassem Youssef. He's just more clever. Show me something about that, okay? I would be... That guy is fucking crazy. You either underplaying how insane that motherfucker is, or there's just a lot of stuff about Mamdani that I've missed.
The real problem will be one of us will be lying, right? I mean, Mehdi Hassan, when he talks about Islam, is lying about Islam. I mean, Mehdi Hassan, you can see video of Mehdi Hassan you comparing unbelievers to cattle, the living subhuman lives, and you can see him raving as an Islamist lunatic. He's since, I think, disavowed that former.
Okay, hold on. Now, this was bad, I think, by Mehdi, but wasn't this like years and years and years ago? Like 20 years ago? Or am I think it was a long time ago.
Self of his. But he's still that guy on some level. He's still a
2010.
A religious ideologue, and for some reason, the left in America and in the West understands the problem of this when it comes in Christian form, right? They know that every Democrat.
Just so you know, we absolutely do not. It is a joke to say that we apply the same lens to toxic Christianity. I hate that he says this as an atheist too. Sometimes there are some of the atheists that I wonder, and I don't know. I don't know, because I was younger. Maybe I just never, where it felt like, I hate this. I hate to even say this because I hated it, because I used to get labeled this sometimes, where people are like, you're not atheist, you're just Islamophobic. And sometimes that does feel accurate. It's like, oh, you're an atheist. Like, what kind of atheist are you? Well, I'm an atheist, and I believe that all gods are fake, but I do think that there is a lot of value in Judeo-Christian values, and I even accept that Christianity could be a net positive to society, so I wouldn't mind living in a predominantly Christian society, but as an atheist, also, Islam is the worst fucking thing in the world, and Islam and every fucking Islamic jihadists, they all engage in taqiyas, you can't even trust them, they lie for their religion. And it's like, bruh. Like, nobody in the United States, even Democrats, if he brings up, is even, you're not even capable of calling out the deranged Christian obsession in the United States right now. All the weird signaling they do to the religious talk and the whole fucking Charlie Kirk funeral bullshit and the evangelical fucking worship of Trump and the weird golden cow shit that he just made of himself. It's okay. I don't care.
When it comes in Christian form, right? They know that every Democrat knows that the religious beliefs of Christians, of fundamentalist Christians, matter, right, and have political consequences. That they form their political priorities. They inform what they will do in the world. So, Christian opposition to abortion or same-sex marriage or teaching evolution in schools, right? Every Democrat, every person left of center in our politics understands that those are religious convictions that are affecting the lives of everyone, not just Christians, right? And yet, for some reason, Islam never affects anything, right? These heartfelt religious beliefs of 2 billion Muslims never make contact with terrestrial reality. It doesn't matter if embassies burn over cartoon controversies. It doesn't matter if Jews are getting stabbed on the streets of London as recently as last week. Religion is never to blame for any of this, right? The people like Mamdani and burn over cartoon controversies. It doesn't matter if Jews are getting stabbed on the streets of London.
Move to Europe, bro. What? 2 billion? Are there 2 billion? Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. I haven't checked them out. Are there 2 billion Muslims in America? Go to Europe and talk about these problems, bro.
As recently as last week, religion is never to blame for any of this, right? The people like Mamdani and Mehdi Hassan and Reza Aslan, and then all the useful idiots who don't happen to be Muslim, Glenn Greenwald and Chris Hedges and Rory Stewart, and I mean just all these people who I've collided with over the years are, I mean, there's just a massive double standard preventing an honest discussion of psychological and social and political reality.
Like, I don't even necessarily disagree with him. Like, it is true that people on the left, for some reason, not for some reason, it's because Muslims are like a fucking minority or they're brown or whatever, so they have this like cringy inability to criticize them. And I would say in the past this was significantly more a problem, and it was definitely cringe. But I feel like he just overstates this problem so fucking much.
And if you're going to recognize it in our own religious maniacs, right? If I have a devout Christian on who happens to be Pete Hegseth's pastor, who is open-minded about chattel slavery because it's in the Bible, and you see the problem with all of that, you have to see the problem with people who chant globalize the Intifada, knowing what the Intifada was, right? And
Destiny, that's a weak argument. Talk in Europe because Islam is not a problem in the U.S. because the Muslim population is very small? No, I'm saying that thinking that Mamdani represents some serious problem related to Islamism because of terrorist attacks in Europe 15 years ago is that's just a stupid tie-in. I think there are good criticisms to be made of this weird simping for Islam. But again, I don't even think the problem is simping for Islam. It's that lefties just have an insanely one-dimensional view of the world where if you're the bigger guy, then you can never do anything wrong. Or I'm sorry, then everything you do is wrong. And if you're the smaller guy, then you can do no wrong. I think these are bigger problems. But his analysis of everything when it comes to religion, it like collapses immediately down into like find the Muslim and blame them for everything.
77% of Democrats, but based on that single poll on that question about genocide, I guarantee you are confused about all that, and that's going to be a disaster in 2 years.
All right. Well, everybody can look forward to a conversation with you and Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah, let's go.
I don't care.
First, let's talk about the red flags in his financial filings. Trump Media, the parent company of Truth Social, reporting that for the first quarter of 2026, they only had sales of $871,000. And when you look at what their net loss was, for the first quarter of 2026, $405 million. That's the net loss. I don't know how else you could describe Trump Media, the parent company of Truth Social, as anything but an utter failure. Now, I'm just expressing my opinion. You can disagree with my opinion, but let's take a look at the stock price. Donald Trump loves to say, the Dow this, the S&P this. Okay, well, let's take a look at your stock. How are you handling your business? Your company? Are you thriving? I mean,
Yeah, what are they even spending the money on? Just servers? $400 million in a year?
you have unlimited resources given that you use the Oval Office to do essentially anything you want, not following the Constitution. So how's your business doing? Well, you take a look right here. Right now, it's trading at $8.93. You'll recall that when Trump Media announced that it was going to be going public with this SPAC, it was trading at around...
Do you think it might be fraud? Well, no, I think he just likes to have the platform and he's making so much money on other fraudulent activities that it doesn't fucking matter.
Announced that it was going to be going public with this SPAC. It was trading at around $100 or more. When SPACs are initially announced, special purpose acquisition companies, they're usually announced at $10 per share to start. So now it's trading under that at $8.93.
Wait, what is this? After harsh backlash, Christopher Nolan has replaced Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy in The Odyssey with a more setting accurate actress. Wait, I thought this movie was like almost about released. Are they like still filming? Am I crazy on that? Is that fake news? Isn't it? Oh, maybe that's like a rage bait, retarded, racist shit. Okay.
Familiar with the matter tells MS Now's Carol Lennick that Trump's former U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, the district where this investigation is likely based, believed bringing a case against Louise Lucas would be good for the White House. That bringing a bribery case against a prominent Democrat before the midterms would be good for the White House. Even though other prosecutors at the office were not sure about the strength of the case. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? A source familiar with the matter tells MS Now's Carol Lennick that Trump's former U.S. attorney...
Okay. What is this? Train ended his stream after the head dev of Riot Games leaked his IP address hours after banning him on Valorant for 30 days. Wait, what?
Hold on, wait, what the fuck is going on? Look, I'll show you right now. Yeah, that's it. That's it, right? What? Wait, hold on. What the fuck do I do? What the
Jared?
Hold on. What? Oh, is this guy retarded? Is he retarded?
No, he's genuinely retarded.
Wait a sec here. Oh my god.
Oh my
guys, I have
god.
to go. I'll be back. I'll talk to you guys later. I'm so sorry for the abrupt. Yeah. I'm gonna end real quick. Yo, guys, I have to go. I'll be back when I get everything situated. I'll be back.
This is the tweet with censored IP addresses that was later deleted. Trainwrecks, how does that work? How do we prove you know someone is smurfing? This person even switched accounts halfway through to keep the rating low and was re-invited to the party. I understand that this is your guy, but this is not allowed. It's that simple. Oh, there were IPs down here. I mean, it's bad. Or, I mean, like, you probably shouldn't leak an IP, but it's a fucking IP address. Who the fuck cares? Do we care that much? I don't know. Maybe we still care about it. I don't know. Whatever. Maybe because I've been doxed and swatted so many times, I don't give a fuck. I don't know. What is this stupid fucking... Quote, any money paid to the United States of America does not have to be paid back, end quote. That sentence, if added by the Supreme Court to its highly disputed tariff decision, would have saved America $159 billion. President Donald J. Trump. Christ.
Suggesting that Obama's leadership on... Are you suggesting that Obama's leadership on Iran was better? Because under President Obama, there were 14 wire transfers to a... Hold on. There were 14 wire transfers to a Swiss account linked to Hezbollah between 2014 and 2016. That was a total of $1.7 billion. The same $1.7 billion he told Congress was frozen Iranian assets. Now, there was a back channel to Tehran through Valerie Jarrett, active for 2012 to 2024. This was after he left office. So, you know, it was almost like a shadow government. He also sent pellets of cash in a plane to Iran. Now, why would you send money to Iran knowing that they are building a nuclear weapon and they are the leading sponsor of terrorism?
Barack Obama was a great statesman who left America much safer. I wouldn't put Donald Trump in the same paragraph. The reality is when President Obama left, because of the great efforts of people like Valerie Jarrett, we had 97% of the enriched uranium out. The reality is we didn't have 13 American service members dead. The reality is we never had gas go up from $2.
Okay, just a random meme, okay? Just random. This means nothing, okay? Whatever happened to the pilot that we rescued in that crazy heroic mission from Iran? Like, why didn't they give that guy like a medal, or the people who saved him? Or I feel like Trump likes to show off shit like that pretty frequently. No, why? I feel like no. What? Maybe he's back working again.
$0.30 to $4. The reality is we did not give China more role in the region. Let me finish, Maria. I'll let you finish.
Okay,
we didn't give China more role in the region. We did not give the IRGC a more hardline regime in there. You know why? Because Obama actually did his homework. He actually tried to engage in statesmanship. He got China, Russia, the entire European allies on board with getting Iran on a path to not having a nuclear weapon. All Trump did is listen to Netanyahu. That's his entire foreign policy. And you know what? I resent the fact that Israel is going to tell the United States what to do. The American president should call the shots in this country.
And
fuck. I feel like he's walking the line, but I feel like he was on the other side of the line on that. Like, fuck, whatever, dude. Israel and Jews are fucked, man. What do you want me to say? Like, you have to be careful and not, like, you should be able to criticize Israel. I think we're largely in Iran right now because of Israel, but you have to be careful that it's not like Israel's secretly mind controlling the president or anything crazy shit like that, right? It's that Trump is a fucking child who can be manipulated by literally fucking anybody. But to say that, like, this should be the U.S.'s decision, not Israel. I mean, it was our decision. It's just that Trump is a fucking retard. But whatever, I don't know.
American president should call the shots in this country, but you and your colleagues are trying to clip his wings right now with this war powers vote. I agree. The president
trying to clip his wings by, you know, exercising the powers that are allotted to Congress in the Constitution. Okay.
Is in charge. But look, a lot of the things that you just said are just not true, Congressman. I mean, look, we have to look at this realistically. And President Obama sent money to the Iranians. And what did they do? They resumed their buildup of enrichment.
That's not true.
Yeah,
not true.
What's not true? What's not true? What specifically about that sentence is not true?
There was a deal that we reached to get 97% of the enriched uranium out. In the process of that, Iran had certain assets that were Iranian assets, wasn't our money, that was unfrozen. And that was a deal that China, Russia, France, UK, Canada, the United States all agreed to. And then you had Netanyahu come in and try to torpedo it, and AIPAC tried to torpedo that deal. We were on a path to having a denuclear Iran, but what happened is it wasn't in Netanyahu's interest and AIPAC's interest, and they've dragged us into another war in the Middle East.
Okay, Netanyahu and AIPAC? Rokan, no. Rokan, in my opinion, my audience is like this, but Rokan, I think, is like brain broken on the weird lefty shit, the sloppulous shit. He's one of like the lead sloppulous, but oof.
They've hurt American people, and the American people are tired of it. They want people who are going to be Team America. They want people who are going to bring gas prices down here and care about our nation and get us out of these wars. And that's why Obama won. He was against the Iraq War. That's why he was on a path to normalization in terms of getting Iran to be denuclear and had the whole world on our side. And AIPAC, Netanyahu tore that up.
Relax. Congressman, it doesn't change the fact that 10 presidents before President Trump all said the same thing.
I think there's some connection issue.
Congressman,
now I can hear you.
Congressman, it doesn't change the fact that 10 presidents before President Trump all said the same thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They are the leading state sponsor of terrorism.
Iran's uranium stockpile surpasses pre-JCPOA levels. Iran stockpile and enriched uranium by quarter in kilogram. Damn. Wait, what happened around here? Oh, bomber. Oh, bomber. I don't know how accurate this graph is, to be fair. I see source, International Atomic Energy Agency, but I haven't checked this myself. But.
They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
One president delivered, and that was Barack Obama.
No, that's not true. Not one of them did anything about it.
Barack Obama is the only one who delivered.
Congressman, you're talking fantasy.
97%
Obama did
out.
nothing about it. You're talking fantasy. Obama did nothing about
it.
Other than send money to the Iranians.
Obama got the whole world. He didn't send money to them. That's just factually false. He unfroze Iranian assets, but he had the whole world behind us. How many countries do we have behind us now? Obama had Russia, China, Canada, UK, France, the whole world on board, and they lost 97%.
Now, Congressman, now you lost me. Saying Obama had Russia and China in their corner. I think you know better than most that Russia and China are not in our corner. Congressman, we will continue this discussion,
this issue.
And we appreciate you. Thank you so much, Ro Khanna.
Thank you, Maria.
You got it.
Oh, reflects all projectiles. Fuck. Oh God, don't give me the shit. Hassan explains Pearl Harbor. Please, God, no. Oh God, no. Wait, but he doesn't even like Japan. These should just be two countries he hates, so he shouldn't even simp for one or the other.
We're doing a poll. We have to fucking see. I have to see. Go vote in the poll. They teach Pearl Harbor like it was an unprovoked attack in America, bro. Wait, what?
It's kind of true, right? That I think even in World War I and II, when we got attacked, we were kind of like doing embargoes or selectively trading with countries or whatever, right? So I mean, you could argue it was kind of provoked, but I mean, I don't think we attacked them first. But then we had reasons for why we were embargoing people. For Japan, I think it was because of the was the Sino-Japanese War. Was that a different thing, or was that when World War II? Was that the same thing? They were doing some kind of fuck shit.
Oh my God. 88%. By the way, I'm talking about being illiterate, but I wrote didn't.
I don't even know which side he's going to take here. Hassan loves Japan because they were the victim of the U.S. because of nukes. Yeah, but usually people hate, like Hassan hate U.S. stooges or representatives of what they consider to be like U.S. imperialist power. That's why they hate like Saudi Arabia, even though they're Muslims. They hate, and all the Gulf states that are friendly with the United States, they hate them because of that.
Wait till you find out whether or not. Wait till you find out there is some suspicions that FDR might have known.
Oh,
but
God. The Pearl Harbor was coming, but they didn't want to say anything so that the U.S. could be... Okay.
He needed something to push the American public into action. Into engage. We're doing a poll.
To what? To fight Japan and the Nazis? Is that even bad? What is...
Seeing the Pearl Harbor discourse? Yes, I did. He talked about at length, and the clip is on the same account, you fucking donkey. He talked about that as well. Stop getting duped by small clips. Yeah, no, this person is not getting duped by small clips.
Oh, God. This girl is I don't even know if this is a real person or not. It could just be AI. But this is like one of the biggest Hassan simps on all of Twitter. I see her simp and write so many fucking retarded tweets defending the retarded shit that he says. Holy fuck. One sec.
Shortage was an absolute disaster for Japan, who relied on imports for 90% of its supply. Not only would this destroy the Japanese economy, but it would put its military at a literal standstill, which meant no more expansion. Japan resented the US for meddling in its quest to dominate Asia. The only solution left for the Japanese was total war. Crush the US fleet in the Pacific and then occupy Southeast Asia and claim its resources. And so, on December 7th, 1941, Japan launched its surprise attack at Pearl Harbor. At first, it seemed like a win for the Japanese, destroying or damaging 21 US ships and more than 300 aircraft, and killing around 2,400 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and...
Damn, this kind of makes Japan look like they were backed into a corner and had no option. I mean, they did have an option, which was not be Nazi Germany in China and Korea. And definitely they were not backed into a corner. They were not the good guys in any way, shape, or form, okay? I mean, they did the Holocaust to China. If you noticed, at first, until they started threatening Western territories, Western colonial conquest, until they started threatening Western territories that were also taken over through colonial conquest, America...
What, is he talking about, were we going to take over China? Or what? Go back 30 seconds.
100 aircraft, and killing around 2,400 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and...
He's talking about French Indochina.
This kind of makes Japan look like they were backed into a corner and had no option. I mean, they did have an option, which was not be Nazi Germany in China and Korea. Definitely they were not backed into a corner. They were not the good guys in any way, shape, or form, okay? I mean, they did the Holocaust to China. If you noticed, at first, until they started threatening Western territories, Western colonial conquest, until they started threatening Western territories that were also taken over through colonial conquest, America and the Western world was like, oh, stop it. We really don't like what you're doing to China, but like, who cares? Okay? It was until, it was only after they started frustrating Western territories did they decide to do something about it.
King.
The Japanese were actually so bad in China that envoys from the Nazi government at Nanjing actually took in Chinese refugees to keep them away from the Japanese. They were horribly monstrous. Yeah. Japanese were specifically the cause of 14 to 20 million Chinese casualties in World War II.
Oh, are we going to blame Are we going to blame Japan for the Great Leap Forward? Are we getting there?
That's not including the other countries they conquered too, by the way. Yeah, the Japanese were really, really fucking ruthless.
Civilians. But the success was short-lived.
The only ones who weren't ruthless, by the way, were the Soviets, because they were good, moral, holy, loving people. But all of the ones that were part of the West and the Nazi team, they were all horrible, terrible people. The Soviets, though, the most moral army, actually. They were roof knocking and dropping leaflets on Nazi approaching soldiers, letting them know that they were going to be shooting at them, hoping that they would not invade.
The United States declared war on Japan on December 8th, 1941. Not long after, the Japanese would realize the mistake it made at Pearl Harbor. Their bombers had failed to deliver a mortal blow to the Pacific Fleet, missing oil tanks, ammunition sites, repair facilities, and aircraft carriers. Just 6 months later, remnants of the U.S. fleet...
No, the whole, like, Kauai shit is... That's what happens when you become servile to American interests, okay? Post-World War II, if you were like, oh, okay, we're now doing whatever you want us to do, sir. America just let you do any kind of whitewashing you want to. This is actually important.
Wasn't it at the behest of... Oh, fuck. I don't remember if Carter did this, and Biden might have. Hasn't the U.S. kind of pushed Japan to say, like, hey, you guys need to apologize for some fuck shit or whatever? I feel like there were U.S. presidents that kind of pushed this, but maybe not. Maybe I could be misremembering. I don't remember.
Important to understand the Chinese perspective on a little bit, because, like, imagine being fucking China, okay? Century of humiliation. Japan comes and does the Holocaust to you, okay? And then America drops atom bombs on Japan. You're like, oh, hell yeah, that's awesome, right? That was their perspective at the time. And I think still to this day, that's kind of their perspective. The Chinese perspective is like, hell yeah, atom bombs. They should have done worse, right? I can't fault them for having that framework, regardless of my own personal opinion on the utilization of atom bombs. But, like,
we have understanding for the Chinese for us nuking Japan, but we can't imagine why Israelis might feel a little bit miffed after the Second Intifada. Really? Okay.
You come into that situation, you're able to develop your country under unbearable conditions, civil war, okay? You gain autonomy, you gain sovereignty in the aftermath of that. And then there is a tremendous growing pains in the process, right? Cultural revolution is
growing pains,
devastating in many respects,
but just growing pains.
Right? The collectivization efforts obviously end up with
some.
The last
pains.
time there's tremendous amounts of famine in the country.
Mm-hmm. It happens.
It's the last time, but it's still,
kind of bad. It sucks.
It's still horrifying when you're experiencing this process, right?
Okay.
When you're going through it.
Strong words.
And you have these, like, unacknowledged atrocities. Many Americans don't even know that the Chinese were involved in World War II, or even far before World War II, or were devastated by Japanese imperialism.
I feel like that's true. I feel like we didn't learn anything about what happened in Asia or Africa for any of the wars. I don't think. Everybody can spam question marks because you hate Hassan, but I didn't learn fucking anything. I didn't even know China existed until like 1960 or whatever, at least for my education.
And then this country that, this island nation that did this to you, okay, becomes an economic powerhouse, has America write its constitution, becomes an economic powerhouse. America then takes some of the war criminal research and then uses it in Korea, and that conflict is inevitably going to spill over into your country. While you're still licking your wounds from World War II.
Yes, thank you. Everybody is saying Nanking. That's great that you learned about that one fucking event. That's nothing. If you typed in chat, actually, I learned about the rape of Nanking, you're reinforcing what I said. You learned nothing about China or the whole fucking Southeast Asian fucking war in Japan and wanting to conquer the whole fucking continent, the whole history. You have no idea. You don't learn anything about it, okay? That's fine to admit that. But when you say, I learned about the rape of Nanking, you're saying you learned fuck all about China, Japan, World War II, which is fine. I didn't either.
You're going through.
You don't know anything about what Rurouni Kenshin had to live through.
Your own version, your own civil war, okay, against these nationalist forces. And then you have to muster up enough of your ascetic and unbelievably poor forces to go and defend Korea. And in certain and you do actually end up achieving a bunch of military successes in that endeavor. You can't even fully defeat the KMT because they steal all.
Damn, man, he can give so much charity when it's his team.
All the gold, and they move to Taiwan, the island of Formosa. Okay, and before you can go and take over Taiwan, you have to now deal with the Korean flank. And yes, Mao's son died in Korea, defending Korea.
I cry every time.
Anyway, all that shit happens, and the Western world, after you've gone through these tremendous hardships, tremendous pain, okay, for decades and decades, you just dial in and you're like, nope, we're just going to focus on development. We're going to focus on building our country, okay? And there are still instances where, regardless of your allegiance with America at times, and regardless of playing a role in American imperialism in the region, which they did, okay? They were very calculated, very strategic, and America thought that they could exploit the Sino-Soviet split, which China absolutely leaned into as well, right? You do all this stuff. The rest of the world doesn't know any of the hardships. They only talk about how you killed hundreds of millions of people. Mao killed hundreds of millions of fucking people. This guy who's like the founding father of your country.
Wait, did anybody hear that? Wait. Did anybody hear that? Hold on. What was he going to say there?
They only talk about how you killed hundreds of millions of people. Mao killed hundreds of millions of fucking people. This guy who's like the founding father of your country.
He was going to say the GOAT.
Modern China, the People's Republic of China, that you have tremendous respect for.
Fam. Yikes.
Okay. And everyone's like, oh, dude, you're basically like Adolf Hitler. Your country was founded basically by Adolf Hitler. They killed so many of your own people directly at gunpoint. Like, what the fuck? Meanwhile, the real country that did the Holocaust to you, that was the Adolf Hitler to you, is Japan. And they're the most kawaii country on the planet. Everyone's like, oh, I love Japan. I love Japan. Japan is awesome. They've never done anything wrong. Yeah, it would probably piss me off too, you know?
Okay, sorry.
It'd probably be very, very frustrating to see the Western world look at this country and look at this country that has done unbelievable amounts of pain that you have a direct connection to, that you experienced only a couple generations ago, only 1 to 2 generations ago, and you've gone through this like tremendous fucking hardship.
Tremendous.
And the Western world that refused to acknowledge any of that shit is still saying you're the bad guys over and over again. Meanwhile, Japan developed, sure, as a vassal state, okay, became this competitive economy, maybe grew a little bit too much for America's liking. Then America came in and was like, enough, right?
Uh-huh.
Brother, say you love Japan. I mean, it's been a long time since and has great. Yeah, I mean, I think Japan is dope as well. I'm agnostic. I'm a centrist. I love China. I love Japan. I think they both have wonderful qualities, and there are definitely things that we can learn from each country. Okay, but if we're talking about it within the framework of World War II, I mean, they were Adolf Hitler. They were Japanese Adolf Hitler. Okay. The very fact that I have to explain it as they were Japanese Adolf Hitler is
Has he ever talked about the Molotov-Ribbentrop or whatever? Or I know they always have an excuse for why it wasn't actually an alliance and it was just a neutrality thing. And it's not, but I wonder, has he ever talked about it before? I'm just curious.
Indication that people don't learn about the horrifying war crimes of Japan in general.
My king. This shit has to stop. Somebody needs to help him, okay? This is not okay. I love Justice Neil Gorsuch. He's a really smart and good man, but he voted against me and our country on terrorists. A devastating move. How do I reconcile this? So bad and hurtful to our country. I have likewise always liked and respected Amy Coney Barrett. It's too much, bro. This has to stop, bro. Not healthy. We'll watch a little bit of this. I don't know how boring this is.
She does turn to the research. She turns, in part because she does turn to the research. She turns to the practitioners to inform the priority she takes on. So bottom line, to set her up for her remarks, I will just say she knows intimately the challenges that any next governor will face on housing.
Wait, hold on. He does?
In 39. Once again,
April 21st, 2026.
Liberals will always bring up Molotov-Ribbentrop as though it's like some sort of secret sauce here. Ooh, an unspeakable truth has been revealed, without talking about Western appeasement and the attempts.
That is true. We never really learn about appeasement over and 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 over. I feel like appeasement is like the only word that you fucking learn when you're doing World War II in fucking high school. That's like the number one thing that you learn is appeasement. What are we talking about? What?
Without talking about Western appeasement and the attempts of Stalin to warn the West about the dangers of Nazi Germany's expansionist agenda. They always bring this up, and I think the greatest comparison to this is when, current modern-day conservatives say, oh, did you know it was the Republican Party that ended slavery? Abraham Lincoln? Have you heard of it? Okay, that person that you banned is awesome. That person that you banned said, did you brothelize a child? That's what brothelize. What the fuck is brothelizing a child, dude? Schmeckel TV account created in December 5th, 2017. What the fuck does that even mean, you absolute freak? He started off with, you're starting to get Jenks double chin, bud.
Oh, no.
Hold on. You're starting to get Jenks double chin, bud, which is, again, funny. You wish. Did you really bang an underage girl at a brothel? Did you brothelize a child until they got banned? The answer to that question is obviously not, you fucking animal.
Okay.
And also, perhaps, a few good ideas on where real change just might be found. Assemblymember Wicks.
Woo, woo.
I am so excited to be here today. Welcome to the California Gubernatorial Candidate Housing Forum. Woo! My name is Buffy Wicks, and it's my real name, and I'm very happy to be here. I want to thank the Housing Action Coalition, some woos, UC Berkeley's Turner Center, the San Francisco Foundation, and the Ezra Klein Show. So when I got elected in 2018, I knew I wanted to work on housing. I was in my early 40s. My husband and I, with a toddler, had just purchased...
What are we watching? This is Ezra Klein grilling people involved in the gubernatorial race for California.
Our first home in the Bay Area. And it was a soul-crushing experience, as I'm sure many of you can attest to. And I don't come from a lot. I grew up in a mobile home in rural California. And I was embarrassed about this when I was a kid. I didn't want to invite people over for slumber parties. I dreamt of a house made of wood. But it wasn't until I was older I realized that that mobile home that my parents purchased for $12,000 in 1978 provided for me the housing security that allowed me to focus on my studies, to go to community college, to graduate from university, to go work for President Barack Obama's White House, to run for office myself, to win, to get into the legislature, to become the housing chair, and now to be the appropriations chair in the California State Assembly. That mobile home allowed me to become me. It was the housing security I needed to become my best self. And for far too many families in our state, that opportunity is far too out of reach. And so when I got elected in 2018, I was the first time elected, had never been elected before, but I started asking a lot of questions. Why do we have tens of thousands of people on our streets experiencing homelessness in one of the richest places on earth? Why do we have some of the highest homelessness rates and lowest homeownership rates in the country? Why are we 2.5 million homes shy of where we need to be? And I quickly realized two things.
Sarah, Katie Porter, Matt Mahan, and Antonio Villaraigosa. Give them a hand.
Clap.
I should say we invited the top Republicans too. Unfortunately, they cannot make it tonight. There have been a lot of debates lately, a lot of debates this week.
They all skipped?
This is not one of them.
Okay.
What we're doing here tonight is a forum and on one topic, a topic that deserves 90 minutes of our attention, which is California's housing crisis. We're going to have 3 sections. Each section I'm going to spend about 6 minutes talking with each candidate in turn. I'll ask follow-ups if we have time. I want to give people the opportunity to hear all of you thinking through these issues aloud. At the end of that 6 minutes, a bell will sound like this. That bell slightly breaks my heart. I'm a podcast host. I want to give you all 90 minutes each, but you're going to get very mad at me if I don't keep this fair. So we're going to try to keep it very fair. We're asking candidates not to jump in or interrupt each other. You are free to criticize each other in your answers, but if you do it, that candidate you criticize is going to get a minute to respond, and you are not going to get more time, so strategize accordingly. And to the audience, please hold your very much merited applause here until the end. Candidates have not seen the questions here in advance, nor have any of the organizations that are co-hosting the event. With all of that out of the way, let's get to the reason we're actually here. Governor Gavin Newsom came into office in 2019 with a promise to build millions more homes. And in the years since, dozens of pro-housing laws have passed, some of them written by heroic legislators in this very room. And yet the number of new homes being built in California is basically the same as when Newsom took office.
What?
Housing is a slow and hard problem to solve. That some of these bills may just take time is true, but we've also seen that they will take leadership and courage, that even good laws that we need encounter resistance and headwinds along the way. So all of you want to build more homes. You all have detailed plans to do so. So the question of tonight is what has to happen to convert these good intentions into homes that people can live in? And how do we protect those in need or at risk in the meantime? We're going to begin by taking on something you all identify as a problem, the very high cost of construction in California. And Mr. Steyer, we're going to begin with you. A RAND study found that the cost per square foot of constructing an apartment in California is over twice that of constructing it in Texas.
What?
Why do you think that is, and what would you do about it?
So I know that, in fact, what's driving that up is the way that we construct, the cost of labor, the cost of materials, and the cost of financing. And for us to drive down the cost per square foot of housing to a place where we can afford to build these houses and people can afford to buy them, we're going to have to make some real changes in the way we're going about this. So let's talk about 2 of them, which is one about the construction on site. And we are building houses and we are building apartment buildings the way we have been doing it for 100 years. And there is new technology to do this where you basically construct, manufacture the parts of the house off-site the way you'd construct or manufacture a car, and then you assemble it on-site. And the estimates that people have, both from the real world of having done it, but also projecting what they think they could do, start at 20%. And they go up from there. And these are real things, and these are companies that are like manufacturing companies, so therefore they need...
Holy shit, you should be able to order a house from fucking Amazon. Based.
Revenues and orders, and the state of California can do that, and it can change the building codes. The second thing, in order to drive down the cost of housing, is about finance. And the state of California has a number of finance programs. In fact, Buffy Wicks is proposing a $10 billion housing bond, which I think is incredibly important. And I should say...
Excuse me.
And I should say that the nonprofit community bank that my wife, Kat Taylor, and I started in Oakland, California, has financed 17,000 low-income housing units. We need to use finance much more aggressively to drive down the cost of housing. And the third thing I'll say is this. The cities and counties in California do not want to have housing in general. As someone said to me one time, they'd rather have a used car lot than they would a new housing, a new apartment building. The reason is used car lots.
Is this Steyer? Yeah.
Don't go to school. Used car lots don't take healthcare costs. And so a real reason that housing is so expensive, both in terms of the time that it takes to get permits, but also cities and counties will charge very large fees, up to 20% of the cost of the house, so that they can sort of preload the cost of having new inhabitants in their community. I've said that I will, on day one, call a special election to close a corporate real estate tax loophole worth over $20 billion to the state of California, so that instead of, when we're talking about a new housing facility in a city or county, it's not an unfunded liability, an unfunded mandate. It's a funded mandate. And we can then work with the cities and counties, and they can stop dragging their feet.
So we're going to come back to the city and county question, but I want to jump in on modular for a minute. Modular housing has been promised and hoped for a long time. A lot of politicians have hyped it up. Investors have invested in it and been disappointed. The big companies in the space have often failed. Katerra raised $2 billion in private capital, went bankrupt. Vive failed. Integra failed. Factory OS, which is the biggest one in California, was recently rebranded and recapitalized. So this is pretty central to the way you think about housing. Why do you think it will be different? Why do you think they failed, actually? And what have you learned that would make it different now?
Well, let me say this. There is a reason they failed, and there's a reason that most startups fail, which is they don't have revenues, and they don't have orders. And so the question is, A, does the technology work? B, does it drive down costs? And C, do they have enough orders so that they're making money and able to sustain themselves and then to finance themselves into much bigger enterprises? And the answer is the state of California can change the building codes. The state of California can give those orders, and we can actually drive this business so that, in fact, not only do they do what they say they can do, but they can get economies of scale going forward to get the kind of size that it needs so that we can really get what they say they can do. Because the estimates right now are we can drive down the cost per square foot by 20%, but I can tell you, because I've talked to them, that the people who run these companies see that as a first step, and they can think they can go much further than that. And let me say this. There are 40,000 units in San Francisco, California that are permitted, that are zoned, that are not being built because they can't afford to build them to a price that people can afford to buy them. So this is actually, the ability to drive down this cost is an absolutely critical part of building, multiples of what we've been building for the last 4 years, and in fact solving the housing crisis and putting it in a place where working people, working families can afford to buy. So it's really getting this right is a critical part of the mix.
Thank you, Mr. Steyer. Mr. Becerra, yesterday you released a comprehensive housing plan. You say in it that it costs too much to build a home in California. You also say in it that you want more union labor in home building and higher wage standards. For Democrats, there's a pretty wrenching trade-off here. An analysis from the Turner Center found that those kinds of standards, notably paying prevailing wage, increase a cost per unit of housing by about $94,000.
These are actually good questions. Good job, Ezra.
How do you both cut the cost of housing and increase the wages behind it at the same time?
Can he answer? Oh, he should have one rule for this debate. You have to answer every question without saying tax billionaires more.
Well, I think the legislature and Assemblymember Wicks.
Can you give your takes on each general approach the participants say? No, fuck you.
Took the first measure.
I think the problem is the kind of debates that I would want are impossible to have, because I think most people just find them boring, like wonky debates. Anytime somebody's proposing anything having to do with like waste, fraud, and abuse is a waste of time. I think it's stupid. And then anytime just proposes a blanket like, oh, we're going to give a subsidy to this, it's like, is it really that simple? And then the third one, Steyer kind of hinted at it. It's not always bad, but when people talk about like new technologies or new ways to do things, my question is always like, if this is such an obvious answer, why are we not already exploring it? That's what I was thinking when he was answering. But then Ezra kind of answered his answer and said, well, people have promised this for a long time, and it seems like it hasn't happened yet. I don't know what Steyer said in response to that, if he had a way around that.
Wages behind it at the same time.
Well, I think the legislature and Assemblymember Wicks took the first measures that we need to get us to that point where we can do is make sure that we're building with men and women who are skilled, and we're doing it at a price that we can afford. And so, as we've seen, if you do infill housing and you make sure that if you have housing units that will be up to a certain height, up to usually about 8 stories, if you're going to do that, then you have the right to be able, as a developer, to try to get the labor that you need and try to negotiate a good price. If you go beyond that, you're talking about major construction, prevailing wage will be the standard. I think then you have the right to be able, as a developer, to try to get the labor that you need and try to negotiate a good price. If you go beyond that, you're talking about major construction. Prevailing wage will be the standard. I think that's a good approach. And then what we do is...
Wait, I don't know. Hold on.
Wix took the first measures that we need to get us to that point where we can do is make sure that we're building with men and women who are skilled, and we're doing it at a price that we can afford. And so, as we've seen, if you do infill housing and you make sure that if you have housing units that will be up to a certain height, up to usually about 8 stories, if you're going to do that, then you have the right to be able, as a developer, to try to get the labor that you need and try to negotiate a good price. If you
So up to 8 stories would be non-union labor, but past 8 stories would be union labor? Is that...
Go beyond that, you're talking about major construction. Prevailing wage will be the standard. I think that's a good approach. And
okay. I don't know. It's crunch.
And what we do is provide to those that are in the lower height housing the opportunity to go out and do private actions if you find that there are violations of labor laws. But I will tell you this, we should not believe that we have to build homes by making it so it's impossible for the carpenter who builds a home to never be able to afford to buy it. I'm going to make sure that those workers who are building those homes can actually think about buying those homes themselves. And all it takes is for us to work together so it's impossible for the carpenter who builds a home to never be able to afford to buy it. I'm going to make sure that those workers who are building those homes can actually think about buying those homes themselves. And all it takes is for us to work together to make sure we are dropping costs.
I know this sounds, it feels good, but it's so stupid to think that, like, if you work on a thing, you should be able to buy the thing. Like, would we go into like a mega yacht factory and be like, I think it's crazy that these people are building mega yachts, but they can't even afford a mega yacht? Or if you're building a thing, this is just, these things should have no connection whatsoever. Like, if you build mansions, should you be able to afford a mansion? So like, if you can only build a cabin, should you be able to afford a cabin? I hate this. It's just so normatively loaded and so just detached from reality. Ugh.
Can actually think about buying those homes themselves. And all it takes is for us to work together to make sure we are dropping costs. It's far more than just labor. There are a lot of things that are involved here, and we would tackle those.
So tackle what, though? Did he say anything past that? That's also the thing, too, where they're like, we'll bring down costs by bringing down costs.
I like that point, but tell me then about how you balance the cost, because what you are...
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Ezra should just be the moderator in every single one of these fucking debates.
Describing here, if you begin paying prevailing wage, you begin paying higher wages, you do increase the cost structure. We all want to see higher wages. I take your point very much. The people who build a home should be able to buy a home. There's nothing to disagree with in that. But you have to cut the cost of construction somewhere. You've got financing,
How?
You've got labor, you've got materials. If you are increasing a cost driver, what are you decreasing, and by how much?
Well, if we could get rid of the Trump taxes, the tariffs that are now being found
that's not going to cover it all, little homie. That's not going to cover everything. Come on, Trump tariffs haven't been here for a decade or whatever.
Legal. That would help us reduce the cost of building materials. If we could stop...
That would help a little bit, but...
Going to war in foreign local...
But cost of construction in California was high before Donald.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. Oh, damn. Whew. Ezra being brutal here. Okay.
Building materials. If we could stop going to war in foreign local...
But cost of construction in California was high before Donald Trump.
It was high, but not as high as it is now. And
but meaningfully...
we can lower those costs. Transportation and building materials is very expensive. And so let's not disregard that we need Washington, D.C. to be helping us. But to your point, and remember, again, labor costs for most homes that are going to be built will not be based on simply the highest rates that you have in the large mega projects. The legislation that was passed by Assemblymember Wicks provided different ways to do this, which would make the labor cost affordable for developers. We also have to deal with financing. We have to have a stable source of financing. We can't just do it one time. I think the measure that Assemblymember Wicks is going to try to put on the ballot is good. I think the measure that former Assembly
Can you describe what that measure is, just for people not following?
$10 billion, of bonding financing so that you could start building affordable housing. The 40,000 units that Tom mentioned.
You're just dumping more. I want somebody to come up and be brave. I want somebody to come up and say, we need to recognize the other great states in this union, okay? We need to have a partnership with the red states in this union, and we need to start doing something. We are going to take inspiration from Abbott and Paxton down in Texas, okay? The same way that they ship illegal immigrants all over the country. We're going to recognize the great retirement state of Florida, and we're going to ship our boomers over to that fucking state. No more old motherfuckers that own 3, 4, 5 homes, okay, that can barely live in their single home, that need to be in fucking hospice. Ship them to Florida. Get them out of here, okay? Get them out of here.
That are ready to go, except the financing, that $10 billion would be readily available to get those shovel-ready projects up and running, which helps.
Oh, so we just have to print. Well, they can't, actually, because it's a state. So we just need to borrow our own bond money.
give confidence to the California families that are looking to get into a place.
But what is bringing the cost of construction down here? I'm hearing.
Damn, he's pushing again. That won't bring the cost down. That would actually probably increase the pricing and everything because there'll be more money flowing around for it.
New bond programs, but the cost of construction is too high. That's what your plan says. What brings it down?
So one, you go after the red tape. So we try to streamline.
Oh, wasteland abuse. The red tape. Get rid of the bureaucracy. We need. Oh God, if he says line by line through the code, he wouldn't say it here because usually people say this with regards to taxes. I will come all over my table.
And again, the legislation that the legislature passed over this last year helps reduce some of the red tape that you have at the state level. We have to tack it at the local level because of the high fees that are imposed. You have to also make sure that they aren't trying to use their ordinances to try to prevent us from being able to build. Remember that most housing that's built today is reserved for single-family homes. Very little construction is done with apartments and condominiums. Very little to buy other than single-family homes. We're never going to reach the number we need if we continue to only build single-family homes. And that's why the legislation that allows us to really build out, do the infill, where we know we have transportation, will give us an opportunity to increase greater amounts of housing at affordable rates for people who need to either buy or rent. And I think that if we do that and come up with a stable source of funding into the future, so it's not just a one-time housing bond that people can count on, developers will begin to have confidence that we are looking to give.
Is the single-family home thing true or slop? It is true. Not only does California suffer from way too much single-family zoning, they also suffer from cannot build apartment complexes more than 5 stories tall. I don't know why.
A predictable means of being able to finance these projects and have them pencil out.
Thank you, Mr. Becerra. Ms. Porter, you've often said on the trail here that time is money, something I hear from developers too. The RAND study I mentioned found that it takes about 27 months to...
Retards are saying earthquakes in chat. Shut the fuck up. Earthquake? Oh, in San Francisco's earthquakes. Oh! Fuck, I'm trying to remember. I think that's right. Every single time I've been to San Francisco, every single skyscraper, they actually call them fog scrapers because they're all 5 stories tall. If you look at a picture of downtown San Francisco, they're all 5 stories tall. All of them are 5. How could I forget? The 5-story tall buildings everywhere. You're so right.
Complete a multifamily housing project in Texas, 37 months to complete it in Colorado, and 49 months in California. Why does it take so long here? And found that it takes about 27 months to complete a multifamily housing project in Texas, 37 months to complete it in Colorado, and 49 months in California. Why does it take so long here, and what would you do about it?
So first, I love that you're talking about this RAND study because this is the second time that we've had a housing event where we were asked essentially what makes construction costs higher. And I think some people still haven't read the study because what the study, I have read the study, what the study and we got asked about it before and nobody read it and doesn't seem like they have since. Ooh. The study is very, very clear that the speed is the driver. Now that's not to say there aren't a lot of things that were mentioned that contribute to the speed, but if we could be 22 months faster, which is what Colorado does, which does care about the environment and does have good worker standards, then the estimates are we could take 10 or even 20% off the price, and that was market rate. So yes, we need more housing, but we also need that more housing is a tool to less expensive housing. And so I think it's really important to think about all the different tools in your toolkit. I strongly support the pending legislation that would create one uniform statewide permit, making it easier for everyone to have the same permit, easier for the state to monitor those denials. I also think it's a really good idea to limit how many sort of last-second add-ons can come. So I think right now you ought to have to, if you're a city and you get a permit, you should have 30 days. That's the proposal in the legislature. You could argue it could be 45 or 60 to say this is what the fees are going to be. This is your contribution for sewer. This is
I feel like every time she's in Congress and she does her little owns, it's always like some fucking slopulous whatever, but that's just what the kids like to see. I like this answer. He's giving good answers here, okay? These are good answers.
Contribution for school, and then you cannot do what we see now, which is just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, which is a little bit more delay and then a little bit more cost until pretty soon the project is unaffordable. So those are just a couple of ideas. I also do think there are innovations in architectural design, particularly for multifamily, that could be really helpful, especially smaller multifamily, where we're seeing things that are 4 units have to apply the same standards essentially as something that's 400 units. So that also adds to the time unnecessarily without providing much benefit of those smaller unit projects, which we need a lot of. Yes, we need all of the big units too, but we've got a lot of different geographies in California. They're going to solve this problem different ways. But they all need to do it much faster because time is money.
There's a difficult irony you see, not only in that study, but it comes up again and again in my own housing reporting. There is no form of housing that Democrats feel more strongly about, support more unanimously than affordable housing.
Oh, affordable housing and public housing. It doesn't have to be that. It can be any housing, but...
Affordable housing costs more to construct per square foot than market rate housing does. When you look at that same study that we are hyping up here on the stage, what you see is that it costs about twice per it costs twice as much to construct a square foot of market rate housing in California as in Texas, 4 times as much to do a square foot of affordable housing as market rate housing in Texas. Now that affordable housing is being built partly on the public dime. Why is it so much more expensive here to do affordable housing than market rate?
Yep.
What do you do about it?
This is not a surprise because look, affordable housing projects face more delays. They face more obstacles. They face more community resistance. They face more restrictions on zoning. People don't necessarily want them in a lot of our communities. And so the other piece of this is that land becomes more expensive every time you have uncertainty about whether something is going to happen. The costs go up. The other issue is that affordable housing developers are piecing together financing from 7 different pools of money that are all designed to make a contribution. And you just as soon get the 7th thing and you're ready to go, and then the 7th one expires or you lose that funding or someone changes the term of a program. So one consolidated, bigger pot of money, which is more similar to what market rate's using, right? They're going to Wall Street, they're getting the money and they're using it. One consolidated pot of money would help. The other thing is the state should be putting land up for affordable housing. That is one of the major factors. It's one of the hardest ones to solve. You can actually solve labor by not going backwards on housing in labor policy, which the other candidates both have. I think we ought to be trying to drive down the cost of construction, but the land is a tricky piece. The state should contribute land for affordable housing.
When you say the other candidates are going backwards on labor, what do you mean?
So I have said that I do not think today or now is the time to do prevailing wage in residential. And when we were in front of the Labor Fed, I was the only...
I'm sorry, what does prevailing wage mean? When I hear prevailing wage, I think just like market wages as opposed to like union wages. What does prevailing wage mean? Best wage possible, union. What does that mean? When you say best wage possible, wouldn't people just up the wage? It means non-organized workers get paid union wages in the area for their work. Okay.
Going backwards on labor, what do you mean?
So I have said that I do not think today or now is the time to do prevailing wage in residential. And when we were in front of the Labor Fed, I was the only candidate. I don't believe you were in front of the Labor Fed, so I just want to make it clear. But those of us who were in front of the Labor Fed, I was the only one who said, I'm not doing skilled and trained in full today for residential housing because it's going to drive up the cost. And I took the heat from labor. I stood up to labor. And Lorena...
Sheesh. Okay. She's a killer. Okay.
Gonzalez got, it was right there. And I am not scared of anybody because I've got 3 teenagers that I do not want living on my couch. And you all seem very lovely, but I don't want you living on my couch or a street corner or in someone's attic. I want you to all have housing where you can flourish. And so there is a pathway to keep building that workforce. There is a big need, a huge need to enforce labor violations and abusive labor practices, which unions have often been very helpful at doing. You could also do that through actually having government oversight of wage violations and workforce violations, and that would be my approach.
Thank you, Ms. Porter. Mayor Mahan, San Jose has been able to approve over 20,000 new homes for construction, most of which did not get built because the economics didn't work out. What could Sacramento do to get those 20,000 homes built?
Well, thanks for doing this, Ezra. There's no more important issue. Just want to say good evening to everyone. It's great to be in Oakland. Thank you all for coming out and being pro-housing.
No one cares.
This issue is very personal for me. I grew up in a house remembering my parents argue about how we're going to pay the mortgage.
You grew up in a house where your parents had to pay the mortgage?
We're lucky to have a mortgage. My sisters have since moved out of state because they couldn't afford the cost of living here. So you asked about the state, and first as I come around to what we can do across the board, let me just share what we've done in San Jose, because I came into this problem of we've approved 22,000 homes, and they're not getting built. So we're saying yes, and we're celebrating the beautiful rendering, and it's in the paper, and everybody's excited except the neighbors who say we don't want it, and it doesn't matter because we don't break ground. And if you look at the RAND study, its time and its fees are the 2 big levers we have control over, and the state can impose upon cities some standards and requirements and caps that can hold us accountable. Now, we didn't wait for that in San Jose. In the last 2 years, we have moved our multifamily housing approvals in our downtown, all of our planned growth areas, along all of our transit corridors, to what's called a ministerial approval. I mean, it's essentially by right. Doesn't go to the planning commission, doesn't come to the city council. It's just
by rights? So like straight people can't get homes anymore? Or?
A weekly hearing in the planning department, and you get told to go. It actually exempts CEQA. So you're building by right if you conform with what we've zoned. And we've zoned for dense multifamily housing in these areas. We have dramatically reduced the timeline for building. So I am deep in this right now as a mayor of a big city. We just had a 560 unit project get approved in no time. Came in, got the approval, they're ready to go. So that's speed. Now the state can impose those standards and set deadlines and use its ability to basically impose effectively a builder's remedy by right and say, if you don't meet these turnaround times, city or county, the developer is going to, by law, have the right to build a conforming project. On fees, we have accumulated, I can tell you in my city, over 10 pages worth of fees that look good on paper. It's to mitigate every...
Do you actually care about the housing problem? Usually say it's not worth it for you to approach because it's simple and you know the key parts and no one is going to fix it, nor does anyone have any interest in fixing it, really. It's just populist bullshit. I'm just curious what part of this you're interested in. Wait, have I said that? I mean, the solution might be quote-unquote simple in that you just need to build more housing, but I mean, like, that's not easy, right? Or you could say it's easy but not simple. Like, there's a whole host of how you get to that building more stuff, right? Usually I just don't like the conversation because it's always like focused on just like spam public housing at the highest wages possible with infinite public money, and it's like none of this is ever going to happen. It's retarded. But these answers have all been good so far.
Imaginable. It's traffic and park
Generally.
fees and affordable housing fees, and they all sound good. On their own, they're all justifiable and they're well intended, but you stack them up and they're adding 10 to 20% to the cost of housing. We had a really tough conversation on our city council. I came to our council and said, we've got to cut the one-time fees in order to get the housing in the ground. And the good news is, if we build the housing, we make up the revenue over time. We have more property taxes, more sales taxes, more workers, more jobs, more dynamism. We eventually, in the long run, are better off. But it's a tough trade-off to make because you get yelled at by the park advocates, by the affordable housing advocates, by every other advocate you can imagine. We had a council member literally lose his
Gecko 098, thank you for the 5 gifted subs in Kick Chat.
seat not long ago in San Jose, and our last mayor lose his council majority over a fee reduction because it was framed as a giveaway to developers.
But there's still a number of big projects that have not been able to go forward because economics aren't working for you.
So
what could you do as governor to make it work for cities like San Jose?
So to finish the point, Ezra, we cut the fees by over 2/3, and 2,000 homes got under construction last year. Another 2,000 are securing financing as we speak and will break ground. And what the state can do is cap local fees. A lot of these fees are not really fees. We allow these bogus nexus studies that employ a cottage industry of consultants, no offense to any of the consultants in the room, that the nexus is pretty loose. Nobody's getting $65,000 worth of value out of the neighborhood park. I'm sorry, I love our parks, but I think what we ought to do is cap fees at a much lower level, a top-down policy, and require that a city that wants to impose a higher fee actually produce to the state a feasibility study that shows that the project can still pencil. Because this is the problem. We don't control interest rates, we don't control the cost of timber, but timelines at the local level and all these fees are completely levers within our control, and we've made excuses for far too long, and it's blocked tens of thousands of units in our cities.
Thank you, Mr. Mahan. Mr. Villaraigosa, your campaign site defends Prop 13, California's cap on property taxes. You talk about holding the line on property taxes. Prop 13 pushes cities to raise fees on new housing because they aren't collecting enough in property taxes to pay the bills. It pushes them to prefer retail and commercial building over residential building. It pushes against homeowner selling because it sells to lose what is effectively a tax break. I know Prop 13 is popular. It's easy for me to sit here and talk about it. But you say you're willing to do the unpopular things to fix the housing crisis. Why isn't Prop 13 reform one of them?
First of all, I didn't vote for Prop 13. I'm on record opposing Prop 13 since 1978.
Damn.
Look it up. Am I misreading your campaign site?
Well, I do believe that we need to hold property taxes down, but let me explain. First of all, Tom Steyer is right. What he was talking about is called the fiscalization of land use. And because of Prop 13, we have a situation where we reward a small mall, strip mall, more than we would housing. So many cities push back against it. So with respect I'm saying with the laws we have today, hold the line on property taxes, but I think we need to fix the whole broken tax system along the lines of Think Long. Think Long has said that what we have today, when we passed Prop 13, commercial properties were paying 60% of the freight. Homeowners were paying 40%. Now it's the other way around. Property can't move. People can. It's why I've opposed the billionaire tax, because I said they're just going to leave. But I do believe we need to fix Prop 13, but fix the whole broken tax system. But within the laws that we have today, Ezra, yes, hold the line on property taxes.
So walk me through how you would fix that tax system.
Well, beg pardon?
Walk me through how you would fix that tax system.
How do we fix it?
Yeah, you're saying you want to do it more comprehensively than Prop 13 reform.
We need to fix Prop 13. I just told you we went from 60% commercial to now 40%. Sorry. We said back then homeowners were paying 40%. Commercial was paying 60%, now it's the other way around. We got to change that. That's one. Two, I do believe that we have to address the fact that people that bought a home before 1978 don't have to pay the same taxes that people who buy a house today do. And that's not fair either. We want to keep those costs down, but we have to address the fact that my generation was benefited by the greatest generation that made sacrifices so we could buy a home. And by the way, I bought a home at 25 years old. I was working at a nonprofit. Today, young families can't buy that because the average down payment is $140,000 to $160,000. But fixing the broken tax system, we got to address the fact that we don't have a service tax. Most states do. We got to fix the upper income tax. Those people are leaving, and we've got to address the fact that we over-rely. I'm the only person on this stage that's actually been the Speaker of the California State Assembly. I had to balance 2 budgets with a surplus, and I did, both times. The fact is, we could do that in times of, good times. In bad times, we can't, because the people at the top are paying the vast majority of the taxes. So Think Long has put a proposal to spread them across the economy so that we're not over-reliant on the upper income tax, so that we can tax more and incentivize cities to build housing, not strip malls.
Great. So it sounds like you want to move the line on property tax.
Okay, based.
You think the system is not working as it currently
The
stands?
system's not working, yes.
And how then does that give you some movement on fees, right? We've heard a couple of the candidates on stage talk about the various fees that are layered on in part because of the way property taxes work. How do you approach those?
When Matt and I are on the stage, we tend to agree a lot because he's right. Impact fees are killing us. About 150.
Can you describe what impact fees are for people who are?
There are all kinds of fees. He mentioned it. Parking fees, all the fees that every group says, all good things, by the way. In your book, the essence of your book is that Democrats don't build anymore because we're looking for perfect. And perfect doesn't exist. That's what happened.
I'm definitely retarded, but isn't balancing the budget with a surplus trivially easy? Well, I think, doesn't he mean that he balanced the budget and created a surplus? The surplus came from his balancing of the budget, right?
Happens when you have the kind of experience the two of us do. At the end of the day, I built more market rate, workforce, affordable, and homeless housing in 8 years in the middle of a recession than they did in the 12 years before me. The downtown skyline went from 20,000 people to 60,000. I'm the first person in the United States of America, mayor, to do transit-oriented development districts, so that we're building housing along transit districts. So what Buffy Wicks and Bob Hertzberger here are doing, these are the things that we need to do to drive down costs, to build housing, and to make sure that young people can buy a home again.
Thank you, Mr. Villaraigosa. I want to talk a bit about one of the difficult fights that a lot of housing projects have run into, which is the conflict with cities and counties. And Mr. Becerra, you were State Attorney General when California began suing cities over housing. You sued Huntington Beach. You led the San Mateo case that expanded the Housing Accountability Act's zone of authority. Governor Newsom has now threatened lawsuits against 15 more cities and counties for dragging their feet or opposing state housing law. Do these lawsuits work to build more housing? I mean, Huntington Beach, it's been just years of legal wrangling, not new build. And if they don't, what enforcement tools would you want to use or create as governor to align cities with the state?
Ooh, bring in the military.
That's where you have to use every tool you have, and certainly litigation is one. You hate to have to go there. You would hope that you would have cooperation between state and local government.
How? What? On what basis? You can just sue a city and tell them to build more houses? Can you?
Local governments have, for any number of reasons, decided they want to be able to control what happens when it comes to housing in their jurisdiction. And they do have tools, zoning laws. We talk about these fees that they try to collect to help them with infrastructure. But what I would say is we have to have an agreement, a state, local government agreement, that there has to be a clear path on what the state of California will do when it comes to housing. Every local government must then fall in place to make sure they're doing their fair share. The lawsuit against Huntington Beach was because Huntington Beach had its own housing element plan. It itself had made it clear that they needed to build several hundred units of new housing, and then they reneged. And so when we sued them, we said,
reneged.
It's in your own plan. You're just not willing to do it. The reason we won is because they were violating the law. The case against San Mateo County was simply to make it clear that the state has a role when it comes to housing, because while we all are Californians and we're like Angelinos or Oaklanders or whatever else, we all have to be able to live and work and survive in California. So the state of California has a role to play. I defended the law that said that every jurisdiction is accountable to meet its housing responsibility, and we prevailed in court and found that that law was constitutional, which set the foundation for us to now be able to push and see the legislation that has now become law that's going to let us build more.
But has that law given access to the kinds of penalties?
Okay. These guys seem cute. Real quick, I need to go over this. Or not real quick, but